Hello, everyone, and welcome to my channel. This week, I would like to share with you the first 3 stages in my process for creating an image of Napoleon. Well, kind of Napoleon. My son has asked me to paint him as Napoleon. We recently watched the Napoleon movie with Joaquin Phoenix, which, if you have not seen this movie, it is amazing. Um, Historically, it gives a great kind of quick overview of Napoleon's life, and the cinematography and the acting are really great. And it's a wonderful way to kind of get a visual reference for Napoleon and his role and importance in history. So, my son is very much into military history, and we enjoyed watching the movie together and talking about some of the historical events and, of course, the inaccuracies that go along in every kind of historical movie. But it was pretty neat experience, and so he has asked me to paint him as Napoleon with his trusty cat. So the first stage that I completed was an imprimatura with burnt sienna, and I like to draw first on the canvas and then go over with the burnt sienna to finalize the sketch and also kind of think about the different areas of shading, where the darkest colors are going to be, where my lightest are going to be, and just get a feel for the composition and the organization of the painting. I am not a professional painter. I am not an expert. I have been learning to paint from books and videos and any kind of resource that I can find over the last 3 or so years. And this year, I have primarily focused on portraits and learning some of the older techniques for portrait work. So the first thing I did was create an imprimatura, and then I went in to do a grisaille layer. I decided to do a little something different. I was reading about the technique of Verona, which is using a green undertone for the flesh to bring more depth and shadow, and to work with complementary colors with the pinks and reds of the flesh. So for this grisaille layer, I painted the flesh tones in green, and then I did everything else in black and white. A challenge that I gave myself for this painting is that I wanted to use only historical pigments, and I have switched paint brands to Rublev for this particular portrait because I wanted to work with historical pigments. Normally I work with Gamblin, and I love Gamblin. I love the Gamblin artist grade paints, but I've been just experimenting with different brands and different colors to see what I like best. I do most enjoy working with a limited palette. As I mentioned, I'm very much still in the learning process, and so working with a limited palette has helped me. For the underpainting, I of course use the French burnt sienna for the imprimatura layer, and then the green is a Verona green earth, which is described as being a transparent color. So I was able to really get like a soft kind of subtle green, and I think I might have gone just a little bit too dark. But as I mentioned, it's all about the learning process. So this is something that I can adjust as I move forward with my next paintings if I decide that this technique is beneficial. I also used a lead white, and this is my first time using lead white instead of a titanium white, and I really could tell the difference. It was a very smooth color. It had a different kind of transparency for blending, and I really enjoyed that. And then, of course, the black that I chose was a vine black, which a German vine black, which has a kind of blue undercast, so that complemented the green of the verdicchio for the face and the hands. And so what I really tried to do with this grisaille layer is focus on the details, the shading, and getting everything just as I would like it, so that I can go back in and I can glaze later. I've learned as I've continued to paint and as I've started to use these techniques where I work in several stages instead of a alla prima where I do everything at once, that it's good to slow down and to think through the details and to spend time with the details. So each stage took about 3 hours for me. I tend to work very slowly. I work in my studio at home, and my studio is also in the room where we do our lessons for school and where my office is as well. So sometimes I get pulled between different tasks when I do allocate time for painting, but I think it's great because it allows me to kind of take a mental break, to stop, to come back and look at things with fresh eyes. So I've embraced this kind of slower, more chaotic process, and it's worked for me. So I'm just spending time really thinking through the details, trying to get as much detail as I can on this underlayer, as I mentioned, for the glazing. And the biggest challenge I have found is with this cat. In the reference photo I took of my son, the cat was laying on its back, kind of sleeping and napping, which is the way that my son likes to hold this big old kind of fat roly-poly cat that we have. And I just found it a challenge to to copy that pose and to make it look organic and natural. So I know that this cat is something that I will need to revisit in subsequent layers to add more detail and to play with the fur and make it look soft and fluffy. So I think this will be a very fun challenge. With the uniform, I took a reference photo of my son, and then I also spent some time thinking through the various details on the uniform and what I'd like to include. It is not 100% historically accurate. What I did was kind of take some reference from the various movie stills and kind of trying to get the important details like the ribbon on the hat and this medal at the front, and replicating those in a simpler form. So I will go back and I will look at some more reference for the uniform as well. And then for the background, I wanted to make the background very simple. I've been mostly working on clothing and facial features, and so I haven't spent as much time adding more complicated backgrounds, and so I just did a quick kind of malted kind of blending. I'm sure there's a word for that, but kind of smoothing that out and blending out the harsher lines. I have found that blending out these harsher lines is a really great way to add in more detail. For the next session, I went in and I let this dry for about a week, and then I came back in with the next session and started to add more of the flesh tones over the grisaille layer. Specifically, I used a lemon yellow ochre, a red, and then a Prussian blue for the glazing layers over the grisaille layer. And I just thinned the paint out with liquid and kind of glazed over, and I found that the colors were a little bit sharper than I would have originally liked. So I went in and continued to wipe off with the shop towel so that the colors would be a little bit dollar. One of the goals that I have for this as I move forward is to spend time layering the different colors and kind of seeing what happens when I glaze, add details, glaze, and kind of build up the complexity of the colors. And so this is an experiment that I feel these first steps have been really successful. Again, I'm just kind of adding those colors into the cat to the various elements where I'll go back and add details like the trim and the ribbons and of course the face. The face is something that I always struggle with, which is why I have put a lot of effort into portraiture over this last year. I do see improvement, but of course improvement is always slow because we learn from just kind of jumping in and trying and learning from our mistakes. I really like the smooth skin that I was able to achieve in the girl with the pearl earring and glasses painting and the man with the pipe painting. And I've posted the kind of quick time-lapse overview of that painting process on my channel as well. Not with a narration, but just the overview of the process. And so I would like to get this portrait to the point where the skin has that kind of smoothness and that depth. And I think it's slowly but surely getting there. This is the ugly stage of the painting, as I like to say. And so I am very much motivating myself to move forward because I know once I get past this kind of ugly stage with the face, I'll be much more happy, and I'll be able to start adding in those details that will make this look more like my son and less like an old French man. And so I'll just continue to glaze and to add those layers, and hopefully I will be back soon with the next few sessions so I can continue to share my progress on this young Napoleon painting. And thank you so much for following along and for listening. I am so close to reaching 1,000 followers on my channel, so I would appreciate it if you could share and like this video to help me reach that goal. Well, thank you so much, everyone. I appreciate you, and I will see you back soon. Bye.